every time I bring up the trafficking thing, I remember I came to see a friend of mine, and we were in Texas, and 13-year-old daughter's walking home by herself. I said, "Are you kidding me?" And I just got off this movie, and I'm going to tell you, you're not, well, I want my daughter to have feel the same way I did when I walked home from school. I said, that world has changed. I'm not the one that's the trafficker here. You understand? I'm not here to hurt your child. I'm trying to protect you. The film is very powerful because it shows you how routinely it occurs, but it also helps you to know what the warning signs are. And a mother and a father have to guard their children, protect them. And by sticking your head in the sand is not protecting your children. So this movie comes out on the 4th of July. Imagine you're at a barbecue and there's Susie right there, and you look over here and then she's gone. And they're watching you. But if you know the warning signs, don't be a prey of these predators. You be one back. I remember him and I we were out in the South Pacific, and we were in the water with these big man-eating sharks. And you know what? They wouldn't eat us. Or they should have, but because we were staring at them. And they're predators, and they're noticing that we're looking at them. And so they wouldn't touch us. It's extraordinary, but it's true. Well, if it works with the sharks, it certainly will work with these predators. And we got to keep going and get on the offensive. And the power of this movie, okay, so you got triumph of the will, right? Okay, that's truth, but a lie. You tell a lie over and over and over again, and it becomes real. Lenin said of all industries in the world, the most important is film. Why? Because if you build a bad building, engineering, it'll fall down. Film, you can do bad engineering. With the film, you can make it lies. You tell it often, it becomes real. And see, right now, a lot of the public, they're changing right now because you have, for example, Hunter Biden laptop. It's not true. Well, we believe that. 2 years, you say that over and over again. But now it is true, isn't it? That was 2 years right there. 7 years, Russia. Before the Durham report dropped, we got a Russian agent, Donald Trump, but then we don't. But that's 7 years. So that's about 80% of all the stuff they've been giving us in the last 2 years, and the public's not buying this anymore. They're looking at the media and going, no, you're as wicked as those traffickers. You are as wicked as those pedophiles. And this is why you're working and running cover. They're putting it together. I'll tell you, there's going to be a point where those people won't be able to walk down the street ever again. So we used the storytelling. And, look, Count of Monte Cristo, 1,200-page book. We had 110 minutes to tell you the story of the Count of Monte Cristo. So we got to take 88 characters and condense them down to 12, 14 characters. We had to do the same here. He's been on many, many, many missions. But the end of it is this. When you walk out of there, you won't get up. Just like you did on The Passion of the Christ, just like you did on Schindler's List. And the difference between Schindler's List and this film, Schindler's List was done 50 years.
Too late.
Too late. We're doing this right now, during the time. And this is a huge weapon to evil. And they don't like it, but tough.
One of you're just reminding me, during the premiere, which I attended last night, or I guess the Washington premiere or something, you guys said that it's the biggest market, that the U.S. is the biggest market for pedophilia, biggest consumer for sex trafficking or child sex trafficking. I wasn't sure which. And I think in the film it says one of the biggest. How do you measure that? And how can that be possible? I'm trying to understand.
Yeah, let me break it down. So there's more people enslaved today than ever before. So let's start with the big number. The big numbers, $150 billion a year are made off the backs of men, women, and children slaves. 27 million of them are throughout the world. The slave labor, organ harvesting, sex slavery. 6 million of those are children that are either in one of those three categories. It's estimated that 2 million of those are specifically designated for the commercial sex trade. Now, these numbers are so enormous that it's almost pointless even talking about it, right? Even the smallest number is still 2 million children, and I think it's much, much higher than that. Now, people often in the United States have looked at those numbers and said, well, that's far, far away. That's in Africa and India and maybe South America. That's not here. No, wrong. The United States is number 3 for destination countries for human trafficking. Number 1 for the consumption of child rape videos. And we are now approaching number 1 in production of child exploitation material. This is so important to understand, because if we don't understand that, then we'll never understand why things are happening in this country that make no sense. Why are there over 85,000, much more than that, by the way, but that's conservative, 85,000 unaccompanied minors show up in the last 2 years at the southern border and are delivered to sponsors. No background check, no DNA testing. The kid brings, the thousands of these kids, look at the CBP numbers, they're published. Thousands are under 5 years old. What's a 3-year-old doing showing up alone with a name? Just call this number, please, and take me to my sponsor. And there's no background check. They call the number and they show up. Now, it's not just that, though. Why are we calling, it's born here in this country. They want to get rid of pedophile and call it minor attracted persons. They want to give children pornography at 3rd grade, calling it sex education. They want to let 13, 14-year-old girls consent to cutting off their genitalia and injecting and having themselves injected with hormone blockers that can destroy their reproductive systems, right? Why is that relevant? Because it's just one more step to, I also want consent. If you give me that much consent at 13, you've already sexualized me because I've had your sex education. Do you know what happens, what porn does to an adult brain? Times 10 to a kid's brain. So now they're 13 years old and they're going to say, well, thanks for letting me change my body. I also want to tell you that I identify as a 30-year-old. And so I want to have sex with the 40-year-old pedophile, and you can't stop me anymore because you have eliminated all godly, scientific, moral virtues that this nation was based upon. You've washed them away, mom and dad, and you got lots of social media hits because of it. You got awards because of it, but now you can't stop the pedophiles. The pedophile agenda has been pushed for decades. And I'm not conspiracy theorist. I'm not saying they're talking to this left woke godlessness that's happening over here. They're not talking necessarily, but their agenda is identical. All the things that pedophiles have wanted, sexualizing kids, giving kids the right to consent, pushing God out of education, these are all the platforms that the organized pedophile groups have been peddling. The woke left is now implementing them. It is so terrifying. It's not just the southern border, that's just the beginning. We need to connect all the dots and recognize our children are in the crosshairs of spiritual warfare. And this has never happened in the history of this country. It's happened in other cultures. You can go look and see what happens. And when that happens, bad things follow if you believe in a just God. We need to stand up right now. Those who believe, those who understand. And this film is that tool. This film will bring a light. It'll soften hearts. It'll bring enlightenment and understanding and information to the ignorant populace who thinks it's okay to enslave our children in the name of liberating them.